Dear students of BA Part 3rd, at first, a very warm morning to all of you. Dear students, your examination is at hand. Rather, it is knocking at the door, and you must be preparing wholeheartedly and with utmost sincerity for the examination. There in part 3rd, you have to answer 4 papers. The 5th paper is the paper of criticism. 6th paper is of British poetry or English poetry, as you can say. 7th paper is Indian English, and 8th paper is your choice paper, is your special paper, where you can opt out of the 3: linguistics, American English, and 19th century fiction. In 6th paper, that is British English or British poetry or English poetry, you have 3 books prescribed to you. One is the poetry anthology, that is Faber Book of Modern Poetry, in which there are some poems which have been prescribed for you. Another book is A Passage to India. It's a novel written by E.M. Forster. And one more book is Selections from E.M. Forster. This selection has some important essays of E.M. Forster, and out of those many important essays, you have to read 4 or 5 essays of his. The first one is The Challenges of Our Time. The second one, What I Believe. The third one is Does Culture Matter? And the fourth one is The Duty of the Society to the Artist. Today, I have a good mind to discuss some of the important features of one of the brilliant or most important essays written by E.M. Forster, and that is The Challenges of Our Time. But before going to that chapter, before dealing with that chapter, or before discussing that chapter, I think it would be proper for all of us to introduce ourselves to E.M. Forster. E.M. Forster, that means Edward Morgan Forster. The full name of E.M. Forster is Edward Morgan Forster. Dear students, you must keep the full name of the writers in your mind, in your memory, because in objective questions, such type of questions are often asked. So Edward Morgan Forster, E.M. Forster, was born in London on the 1st January 1879. So he is a 19th century writer. He is the most versatile genius in the literary firmament of 19th century. He is a prolific writer. He was a novelist, an essayist of great caliber, of great merit, of great brilliance. He was a writer, or he is a writer who emphasizes upon the individual relationship. He focuses upon the individuality. He focuses upon the importance of personal relationship in life. He believes in the democratic principles in life. He believes that literature should be life-oriented. It must be written for the sake of, for the care of humanity. Humanity should be the whole and soul of any literary work, any literary writing, any piece of literature. So, E.M. Forster was a class in himself. He was a school in himself. He has written so many novels, but his reputation in the field of novels rests upon his 5 major novels. Or in other words, you can say Forster has 5 major novels to his credit. And those 5 major novels are Where Angels Fear to Tread, which was published in 1905. Where Angels Fear to Tread. The Longest Journey, it was published in 1907. Then came in 1908 his other novel, and that is A Room with a View. Then 1910 witnesses or enjoys the flavor of E.M. Forster's another novel, that is Howard's End. And in 1924 the literary world enjoys or tastes the very taste of E.M. Forster's A Passage to India. In 1924, A Passage to India is published. Then in 1927, he has produced an excellent work, or in the field of criticism, and that work of his is Aspects of the Novel. It is a work in the field of criticism, so it can be viewed, it can be taken, it can be adjudged as the critical treatise which comes out of the pen of Mr. Forster. Aspects of the Novel. And then we have once again the glimpse of his literary genius when he produces his another important work, that is Two Cheers for Democracy in 1951. Two Cheers for Democracy is, in a sense, the most comprehensive of Forster's books. Its subjects range from the political climate in the years to art in general, individual artists and places. This work, that means Two Cheers for Democracy, is very important because most of the essays which you have to read, which you have to go through, which you have to read, which you have to prepare for the examination, has been extracted, has been taken from this very book of his, that is Two Cheers for Democracy, which was published in 1951. The book throughout reflects the depressed gloom. At the close of the preface he writes, "The darkness that tries to degrade us may thin out." So E.M. Forster is a prophetic writer. He is a prophet, no doubt. In Two Cheers for Democracy, he focuses upon the depressed gloom. He emphasizes upon, or he points out the gloominess of the society. It might be political gloominess, it might be the religious gloominess, it might be the economic gloominess. That means the darkness. But he points out very emphatically that this gloominess, this darkness is not permanent, is temporary. Sooner or later, today or tomorrow, it will disappear. It will vanish into the thin air. It will thin out. The selection from E.M. Forster, which you have been prescribed to read, it has been compiled by Professor R.K. Krishnamurthy. And here, the great professor or the eminent professor R. Krishnamurthy attempts to represent all the aspects of Forster's work. Forster was an essayist, he was a short story writer, he was a critic, and he was a massive novelist. And the very purpose of R. Krishnamurthy, by bringing out this selection, that is the selection from E.M. Forster, is to present E.M. Forster as a whole. He wants to provide to the readers, to the students, to the lovers of Forster, the different shades and different colors of E.M. Forster at one place. The essays which have been chosen here in the selection, which have been provided place in the selection, presents E.M. Forster as an essayist, as a short story writer of great merit, great brilliance, great genius. Forster as a critic of merit, a critic of distinguished ideas, a critic of distinction, at the same time, as a novelist of great order, of great genius, of great height, of great merit, of great power. However, the essay, however, the selection stresses primarily upon Foster as an essayist. So, no doubt, the essays give the glimpse of Foster as a whole, as an essayist, as a short story writer, as a critic, as a novelist. But the main focus is to highlight the merits as well as the demerits, as well as the shortcomings of Foster as an essayist. So, these essays very brilliantly, very nicely, very genuinely provide us what Foster is as an essayist. Out of the 16 selections, 13 are essays. It means this selection consists of 16 works of E.M. Foster, and out of those 16 works, 13 are essays. And of these, 3 are taken from the volume called Ebinger Harvest, and 10 from 2 Cheers for Democracy. Therefore, I have told you beforehand that 2 Cheers for Democracy is one of the best works, is one of the most important works of E.M. Foster, and it gets proved here from this very fact that out of the 13 essays which have been selected here in the selection, which have been provided here in the selection made for you, the 10 essays, out of those 13 selections or 13 essays, 10 have been taken from the very famous or important book of his, that is 2 Cheers for Democracy, which was published in 1951. There is one short story and a long extract from the novel A Passage to India. Foster, the critic, is represented by an extract from his aspects of novel. The selections primarily reveal Foster's qualities as an essayist, which I have told you time and again. Some of them throw light on his personal life. So, as an essayist, E.M. Foster has different shades, has different colors. Foster is an essayist of some difference, you can say. We get many types of Foster, many forms of Foster in his essays. He is not the same as an essayist in his essay, What I Believe, which he is in The Challenges of Our Time. And Does Culture Matter? Present Foster in a different shade, in a different form. If you go through his essay, The Duty of the Society to the Artist, you will find another form of Foster as an essayist in that particular essay. So, these essays throw light on his merit, exceptional merit, merit of difference, you can say, in almost all his essays. So here, some of his essays throw light on his personal life, in spite of the impression the selection make of many aspects of Foster's personality. They do not suggest his place in the contemporary world of letters. This is because Foster's claim to fame rests primarily on his work as a novelist, and there is only one extract from one novel in these selections. So now I have a very good mind to take you to his very foremost essay, which is prescribed for you and which is very important also, and that is the challenges of our time. This essay was written in 1946 and it has been taken from his selection, that is the 2 Cheers for Democracy. The problem that Foster tackles here is how to preserve the freedom of the soul in an age where the state is making more and more inroads into one's private life. So, E.M. Foster here makes an attempt how to save, how to protect the individuality of an individual. How to save the humanity. How to save the freedom. How to save the freedom of the soul from the octopus grip of the state, of the government. The system, the state wants to swallow the personal freedom, the individuality of the individual. The system wants that the man, the individual should be the puppet. So, the system wants to suppress the very freedom, the very individuality of man, of an individual. The system thinks or believes that a man or an individual should be like a cog in the bottle. An individual should be just like a rubber stamp. He should work like a puppet. He should be in its grip. And Foster is against this. He champions or advocates the very individuality, the very freedom of the soul of an individual. However, he draws a very demarcation line between the freedom and a demarcation line between the freedom and the rampantness. So his answer is that we must try to live amidst the new economy with the old modality. Now, we should get, or I should try to provide you some clue to this essay so that you might understand the essay, or it might help you to have the proper understanding of this particular essay. So there are some outlines. I am providing you some outlines which will definitely help you, which will definitely strengthen you to understand this particular essay, that is the challenge of our time. So Foster is one of many speakers dealing with the theme of the challenge of our time. So as the title suggests, as the title of the essay suggests, that this essay very threadbarely deals with the different challenges of that particular age of Foster. However, those challenges of that particular age are, of course, the very challenges of this time also. So it is well said that a writer writing in his age writes about his time, and whatsoever he writes becomes of universal appeal, and it appeals in all the ages. So he watches, he observes the challenges in his time, in his age, and he presents and he writes, he mentions in this particular essay the challenge of our time, those challenges. At the same time, he prescribes the remedy also, how to tackle, how to face, how to win over those challenges, how to maintain those challenges. It is difficult for him to see and describe that challenges clearly. Foster points out that he was brought up in the liberalism of the Victorian age. They were hopeful of the future of the world that time. They were taught to be kind and humane, humane, human, even though they were exploiting Africa and Asia. Somehow they were leading comfortable lives, and it never occurred to them to inquire too deeply into the means of their comfort. This he writes about the Victorian age, as he was brought up, लालन पालन किया जाना. He was brought up in that particular age, but he has seen the 20th century. He has breathed in the air of both the Victorian age, at the same time the 20th century, and he witnesses a sea change, a great change between the air of these two ages. He says very clearly, but the 20th century has seen the revolt of Africa and Asia against European domination. It has also seen the revolt of the poor classes in Europe. In this situation, the individualism of the Victorian age seems out of place. Nevertheless, the individualism is needed in some matters at least. Laissez-faire may have to be given up in economics, but not in regard to the world of the spirit. He finds, or he thinks, if the system of laissez-faire in the field of trade and economics, which was observed, which was in vogue in the Victorian age, may have lost its importance, may have lost its credibility, may have lost its significance in the changing perspectives of the 20th century in the field of economics, in the field of trade. But he believes that it is important, it should be regarded, it should be kept in the field of spirit. So Foster says that the new economy has to be combined with the old morality. Foster believes, or very firmly you can say, very emphatically, that with the changing circumstances and changing perspective, changes are to be welcomed in almost all the fields. But it is but natural that we might not be in a position to tackle the economic problems of this particular age with the old economy of the previous age or previous ages. So we need new economy to address to our problems, you can say, to solve out our problems. But Foster, as a visionary, believes firmly or emphatically that this new economy must be combined or must have the combination of the old morality. New economy shielded with old morality, according to E.M. Foster, will definitely solve the problems, the economic problems of this particular age. Planning may be accepted for the needs of the body, but not for those of the spirit. In the essay, Foster talks of two different things. One, the body, and the other, the soul. And this life or man is the mingling of these two. Body without soul is useless. At the same time, soul having no body wanders here and there. It loiters here and there. It too loses its importance without body. So, the state must think for both. There must be a difference, or there is a difference between the animal and man. We have the stomach and the mind also. No doubt, the animals too have the mind, but they have not got such a developed mind, you can say, as the human beings have got. We need food for our stomach. And we need emotional food also. We need food for our mind also. We need wheat. We need bread for our survival. At the same time, we need flowers. We need roses. We need other flowers. We need emotions and other things for our mind also. हमें गेहूं भी चाहिए, गुलाब भी चाहिए. So, there should be the planning. Planning should be there. And planning should be accepted for the body. But that very planning that captures the soul, that fastens the soul, that makes inroad into the freedom of the soul, can't be accepted. It is easy to formulate this principle, but difficult to carry it out in practice. For the relations between the body and the spirit are very complicated, and it is very tough to draw a demarcation line between the body and the soul. Up to which extent there is body, and from where the territory of the soul starts. It's very tough to recognize, to find out. Further, the questions arise of preferring the claims of one of those of others. Foster mentions a concrete example of such a conflict of loyalties. Near the village where he spent his childhood, land is being compulsorily acquired for building a stately town. Men who have lived on farms there and to whom farming is a way of life are being sent away from their homes. In this case, the rights of these farmers to live their own way of life is in conflict with the needs of town planning. Finally, Foster deals with the duty of the state to the individual. the freedom of the soul, the freedom of the individual must be secured. It must not be strangulated. Planning should be done for the body, not for the spirit and not for the soul. We need, or the present age needs, no doubt, the new economy, but it should be mixed with the old morality. On the whole, the gist of the essay, in my opinion, is this: that the state must be sympathetic to its citizen. The government, the system must try to solve out or to provide the better living opportunities to its citizens. So, dear students, in a nutshell, I have tried my level best to discuss some of the important points of the essay. It might help you in the proper understanding of the essay if you go through it. So, it would be my suggestion that you should try to go through it on your own, and in next of the videos I will try to deal some other essays of his. Till then, have a very, very nice day. Prepare yourself with utmost sincerity for the coming examination. Thank you. God bless you all.